There's nothing like League. And this is the Betfred Super League. No! Got me here. It took a big chunk out of me. Bleeding. It's bleeding. Oh no, it's bleeding. The thing just ripped my ear off. What do you think?
Hello again, everyone, and welcome along to this week's edition of Eddie and Stevo, the podcast. Special thanks, as always, to Betfred for their continued support. Well, what a semi-final that was. Leigh against Hull Kingston Rovers made it to Wembley for the Challenge Cup final, beating the giants of St Helens and Wigan in the process. Now, here last week, Stevo predicted a Leigh-Wigan final. You almost got it right, Stevo. So near, yet so far.
Yeah, but I've got to take my hat off to Gary Schofield. He predicted that it would be a Leigh versus Hull KR Wembley final. And I'm pleased in many ways. Obviously, the St Helens and Wigan fans will disagree with me. But to me, it's brought back that little touch of magic. And a lot of people will be saying, oh, you know, the two big guns, St Helens and Wigan, that would have made it a full house. Well, I think that both the fans of Hull KR and of Leigh, I think they'll get down there in thousands.
Well, let's keep our fingers crossed indeed. Leigh haven't been to Wembley for 52 years. It was 1971. They last tasted real success when they lifted the title in 1982. It was their first semi-final in over 30 years. What do they say, Steve? What's the phrase? Long time between drinks?
But I must say, when you look back over the semi-finals of the Challenge Cup, there has been so many upsets, absolutely favourites being just kicked out. Look, I can remember when Dewsbury, my old club, we got to a semi-final at Headingley, and we were playing the Bradford Northern, as they were those days, and we were odds-on favourites to win, and we lost. Bradford went to Wembley, and that's the magic of Wembley.
Well, there's been a little bit of controversy on social media about the two semi-finals this week. The big question from the Leigh game, Leigh Saints, should Zach Hardaker's try been awarded after Tom Briscoe and T. Ritson collided chasing the through ball? Some people feel it was a shove in the back by Briscoe, but it was deemed to be a fair challenge for the ball, referred up to the video referee. He said, OK, fair challenge, and the game was virtually won.
Well, I suppose in many ways it's sour grapes. To be fair, the losing side, they made no complaints about it at all. It's that, look, it's the media situation that we've got now. We used to have to wait until the following Monday to pick up the papers. Now everybody's on websites doing this, that, and the other. They're all making claims about, and it just explodes into something. Look, the referee has got full control of that. There's no amount of, shall we say, responsibility. He makes a decision, and that was it. Now, the laws of the game state that if two players from either side are running in the same direction, you can use your shoulder to push the player away. And obviously that has been what the video referee said, that's okay by me. And that's it. Listen, the results are there. It won't change it.
You have to feel a little bit sorry for Tommy Makinson. He couldn't convert as the Leopards held on. You know, Johnny Lomax struck with just 2 minutes left to play. Looked like he was going to set up a grandstand finish in Golden Point. Poor old Tommy, he missed. And so Leigh are there for the first time since 1971.
And it'll be a great final, as I say. You know, Leigh and Hull, it'll be empty. Because don't worry, a lot of the black and whites in Hull, they'll be going to Wembley. They'll be purchasing the tickets to support Leigh. They won't want KR to win.
I don't suppose they will. It'll certainly be a city divided. There's no doubt about that. Now, that was the first semi-final. And the second semi-final, it was the game between Hull KR and Wigan at Headingley. This was a fantastic encounter. I thought Saturday's game was good. Sunday's was even better. Matt Peake's men went into half-time with an 8-4 lead. Great effort from Jay Field, 2 Harry Smith's goals. But Wigan down to 12 men just after the break, following the Joe Shorrock shoulder charge on Mikey Lewis. Now then, this is where the controversy arises. Red card for Joe Shorrock's, but Mikey Lewis stayed on the field. Didn't even go off for an HIA. And a lot of people are upset about it.
Yeah, but look, HIA has got nothing to do with the fact that the referee has got full control. And his opinion was that it was such a bad shoulder into the face of Michael Lewis that it's a red card. You can't try to blame something else, saying, well, Michael Lewis didn't go off for an HIA. That's got nothing to do with it. In the eyes of the referee, who is in full control, he thought it was a send-off, and that's it, a red card. And they can go on and they can complain. Forget about it. It's all done and dusted. It's fish and chip paper, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Hang on. Fish and chip paper. We're showing our age again this week. Sam Tompkins, current player, and Liam Watts, current player, they didn't think it was a red card. Neither did some of the coaches. Tompkins said the decision was madness. Watts said it was shocking. However, former referee Ian Smith said it was the correct decision by Liam Moore. All day long, it was a red card, he said. So you're right. It's a matter of opinion, and it's all over now, and we know who the finalists are.
Yeah. As we keep saying, is the fact that it doesn't matter whether you get 400 people saying it was a disgrace, it was awful, it shouldn't have been sent off, etc. and so forth. It was off. Red card. There's only one man in charge, and that's the man with the whistle. See you later, alligator.
Yes, and off he went. You're right. So these two are going to Wembley, as I say. Now it's down for August the 12th. And guess what, Stevo? Guess what? Mick Lynch and his RMT brethren have called yet another rail strike. The roads are going to be packed.
Yeah, it's a shame. They've been doing it for years. It would be good if you and I owned a bus company, because that's how they'll all get down there.
Well, look, just to finish off with the Men's Challenge Cup semi-finals, I tell you someone who will have the freedom of the city of Kingston upon Hull, Brad Schneider. It was his drop goal that took LKR to Wembley a week after doing exactly the same thing to get the win against Leeds, also at Headingley. Brad Schneider suddenly is a folk hero in that city, isn't he? He's only been there 2 weeks.
It doesn't matter. It was certainly one of the best buys that KR have secured. And look, you've got to search all over for what you think is going to be a type of player that can just pull something out of the hat. And he's done it, 2 weeks on the trot. I mean, it was a great effort. I mean, Ryan Hall pulled up. He didn't play the game. And this Schneider, he will go down in history. And what happens if he wins at Wembley with a drop goal? He'll be an immortal. They'll have a statue outside the stadium.
He will be an immortal, you're right. And don't bet against him. I mean, that was a great talking point from that particular game. The other one, on Saturday, Joey Lussick, he scored a try in the semi-final, and it's his last match for the Saints. He's gone back home to Australia. He's on his way to the Parramatta Eels, and Saints have come up with a replacement in return, Moses Mbai. Now, this is a State of Origin star from 2019. He can play several positions, and Saints apparently have stolen a march on other Super League clubs who wanted him. Did you know much about this Moses Mbai?
Yeah, he's a damn good player. They've signed someone who's a utility player. He can play hooker, he can play halfback, and he's often played at fullback. So it's something that they needed. And I think it's a very, very good purchase.
And Joey Lussick goes the other way with something at the back of his name, of course, the fact that he scored that try in the semi-final, albeit they were beaten. Now, in the Women's Challenge Cup semi-final, it's going to be Saints and Leeds also at Wembley. Saints got there thanks to, guess what? A drop goal from Faye Gaskin for St Helens. Her career was threatened by a serious injury a couple of years ago. Apparently, she was told she would never play again. What a fabulous story, and well done to Faye Gaskin, eh?
Yeah, it's wonderful to see that the Women's League is really building. And there's a call now to bring in the grand final is that the women's final is played on the same day.
The other good thing about this last weekend, Batley Bulldogs, they're going to Wembley as well for the very first time in their history. They're going to play in the final of the 1895 Cup. And what a way for their coach Craig Lingard to buy out at the Bulldogs. He takes up a new full-time role at Castleford next year. But Stevo, Batley are at Wembley. Can you believe that?
Yes, I can, because they've really, really built up. It's a small club. They don't have much finance, and I really wish them all the best. Sadly, I'm connected with the London Broncos. They just couldn't make it in their semi-final. And fair play to Halifax, but that'll be a great game. Halifax and Batley, it's wonderful. And as I mentioned before, to get these games put on at the same time as a major final, it is amazing. It's wonderful.
Let's celebrate the fact that there are going to be 3 games back-to-back at Wembley on August the 12th. Fantastic for the sport and fantastic for the BBC and fantastic for all the players, coaches, fans, supporters, directors who go down there. You remember a few weeks ago, I suggested that perhaps Leigh Leopards would be walking out at Wembley in leopard suits. You remember that?
Well,
it wouldn't surprise me. No, they're not. But they're going in designer leopard-spotted tracksuits and trainers.
Well, Derek did the right thing, didn't he? Because right from the start, he started wearing the leopard skin.
Yes.
And it's created something different. And their position on the league table is fantastic. Their position now, because they're appearing at Wembley, imagine what it will do for that town. The streets will be empty. The entire town will be down in London.
I would hope so. I really would hope so. And on the local television in the Northwest tonight, they were selling the tickets, and one of their supporters has predicted, listen to this, he's predicted the treble, League Leaders Shield, Challenge Cup win, and Grand Final win. Good on them. It's going to be fabulous. It really is.
Yeah, as we said earlier, Eddie, the magic of Wembley is still alive, and that makes me very happy.
Indeed. And it certainly is alive for Batley. And talking of Batley and the Championship, we're still waiting for the Super League television deal to be announced. BT, or TNT as we now know them, DAZN, the streaming service, or Sky. Well, there's been some bad news this week that Viaplay, they televised the Championship, and they announced last Thursday they're scaling back their UK commitments. Listen to this. They suffered a £24.1 million loss. So they're going to focus on core markets in the Netherlands, which won't include the Championship Rugby League. So as of now, as we speak, all broadcast rights, except for the Cup, which is held by the BBC for at least one more year, they're now up for grabs. The search is on for the Championship clubs. They won't be impacted initially because they've already been paid out. But from next year and beyond, they need a new TV partner.
And it will affect the lower clubs. There's no doubt about it. And at the same time, the IMG contract, as far as I've been reading it, is that you have to have a certain amount of fans come into the ground to watch the game before you have any chance of getting up into the big time. And I'm afraid by doing all this, a lot of people perhaps will say, well, they can't watch it on TV, so maybe they'll put their hand in the pocket and go and watch it. But it doesn't seem to have gone that way, does it?
It doesn't. It doesn't. And let's hope, we get a full house at Wembley for these 3 matches, and, the skies suddenly clear a bit and people will come in and they'll settle the deal. We can only keep our fingers crossed. OK, look, back to Super League. Saints against Leeds on Friday. This is a real test of character for the St Helens team now, isn't it?
Oh, this will be a cracker of a game. Don't miss this one because, as you say, St Helens will want to get back onto the horse as quickly as possible. They'll try to shove the loss in the semi-final to one side, and I think they will. They've struggled a little bit at certain times. They've had injuries, but a lot of other clubs have had injuries as well. But Leeds will know that they will be coming with a lot of force. This will be probably one of the best games of the season.
It might well be. And Leeds will be hell-bent on denting St Helens if they can, because Leeds are still not out of the top 6 race. Wigan, 24 hours later, they're at home to Leigh on Saturday. What a fascinating fixture this is going to be. You know, Leigh at Wembley, Wigan not at Wembley. Oh, dear me, there's some points to be scored here, isn't there?
Once again, this is a game that you could not have selected 2 games whereby there is so much importance about not the game itself, but the future. Are you going to have a chance? Leeds, they're desperate to get into the playoffs, and then you find yourself that Wigan want to lay down a mark, a big mark, and say, we're still in contention for Old Trafford.
Be a fascinating weekend, it will. And what about Sunday, Stevo? Wakefield against Warrington. This is massive for Warrington. They couldn't buy a win against Trinity last year. I think they beat them 3 times, once in the Cup and twice in Super League. I mean, Wakefield scrapping for survival. Warrington on a bit of a downer. Blimey.
Yeah, it's once again, Donald Powell must be scratching his head because, some of the players went back to Australia, and then you had the injury problems. But that's where you've got to have a little bit more depth. And when it comes to the end of the season, the clubs that have got the depth will survive. But again, Wakefield, they're fighting for their lives, and obviously Castleford Tigers are doing exactly the same thing. And there's news today that they've signed the North Devils Papua New Guinea international, Liam Horn. Now, he plays in the 2nd tier competition up in Queensland in the Brisbane League, and he's a handy player. And Tigers they are pulling strings to try to get out of a real mess because it's a big fight between those two.
It is, and Billy Sikrikas, a Greek international, he's coming up from the NRL, and Alex Foster returning to Castleford on loan until the end of the season. Warrington looking for reinforcements too. We've got a story here, Stevo, that has suggested that Thomas McKaylee, the man who walked out on the club earlier this season for citing family reasons, is contemplating an on-loan return to the club until the end of the year. And apparently they're also interested, Warrington, in the St George Illawarra player Zane Musgrove. That's being reported up here as well. So at this late stage of the season, before the signing deadline, all the clubs in a spot of bother, all the clubs looking for a bit of form, they're scratching away, trying to get players in.
Yeah, well, it's been like this for a long, long time because that awful word, relegation, it really does bring a lot of pressure to not only the players, but also the club, the fans and everything. And you try to pull out all the stops. You try to pull, the rabbit out of the hat. And they've been doing that for a long time. But this is the most important relegation battle of all, because this perhaps means the end of the club, according to what the IMG plan is that whoever gets relegated perhaps will not be able to be promoted by what they do on the field of play. It's only what is off the field of play that is more important than the points you gain whilst playing on the field. Sounds crackers, but that's how it is.
Well, that's why Castleford and Wakefield are both desperate to finish in 11th place. The Warrington signings, they're saying, is to help them to get to the grand final. So there's pressure at the top, there's pressure at the bottom. Who would be a coach? Who would be an owner of a club these days?
Well, yes. And I'm glad that you and I aren't commentating anymore.
We'd lose our voices.
Because,
We'd lose the voices.
yeah, well, no, we can just sit back and enjoy it, and we are doing. And
Absolutely,
you get results like Leigh beating St Helens, KR beating Wigan, and you think to yourself, the game is still fantastic. Let's hope that we can get the money to ensure that it still will be fantastic. I get so upset when I look at people who buy football, soccer as we call it down in Australia, soccer teams, and they put millions and millions. And I just wish that one of the soccer teams would say, well, we want to back a rugby league team instead. So, any of you multi-billionaires out there, come on board. The greatest game of all.
Well, you're right, because this Mbappe is going apparently from Paris Saint-Germain to the new league that's being set up with the millions and millions of dollars in Saudi Arabia. And Mbappe's going for something like £300 million on a transfer. That's before his wages. I mean, if you're looking for value for money, have a look at our game, You don't have to pay that sort of money. Have a great time.
Yeah, well, I often wonder whether, you run your club, send out letters, send it to Dubai and all the Arab countries and say, listen, you don't have to pay billions. Just come on with a couple of million and take over the entire club.
That's right. And if we could get a World Club Challenge in Dubai in the future, which is something that Lindsay Hoyle on our podcast said a number of weeks ago, that's his dream, a World Club Challenge or a Nines tournament in Dubai. What a showcase that would be.
Yeah, of course it was. Look, I can remember when Wigan went over to play Brisbane in the World Challenge, where several executives from Fox Sport went to that game and actually got their heads together and said, this is a very good game, and look at the crowd, and therefore that's how it started.
That's right.
We got people involved that had the money.
You're right.
It was the people who ran Sky in the UK, the people that run Fox in Australia, and all of a sudden they said, "What a great game!"
It was. That was 1994. 1995, they announced the start of Super League in the summer over here, and 1996, it all kicked off. You're right. We've got to showcase the game, Stevo, and we'll showcase it wherever we can.
Well, having said that, Eddie, I'm quite willing, if they want to send you and I into Dubai, first class, of course.
Of course, yes.
And we'll put down a market, and we'll sort of look up on the phone directory and say, right, where's the billionaires and where's the millionaires here? And let's go.
We'll talk the talk. We'll talk the talk and walk the walk, won't we? Hey.
Well, most people say it's rubbish, but who knows? Maybe someone is listening to our broadcast now, and they'll say, "Well, I've got a spare billion. Why not?"
There you go. Stevo's always got his hand out for a freebie. Good on you, Stevo. I'll be with you. I'll be with you on the plane.
Listen. It's not a matter of a freebie. It's a matter of trying to save the greatest game of all.
I know, and you'll want paying for doing it. I understand that. It's not a freebie. I understand that 100%. A little bit further south than Dubai, the NRL is progressing, of course. Reports here, sad news this, Josh Hodgson, former Hull and Hulkingston Rovers, of course, hooker, that's where he made his name. Early retirement for him at the end of the year because of a serious neck injury.
Yeah, it's always a sad day when a tremendously talented player has to hang up the boots. It happens to a lot of players, Eddie, and he's done well. He's been a great ambassador for rugby league, both in England and, of course, down here in Australia. I wish him all the best. I hope that he does not walk away from rugby league. I hope that he gets involved in some way, trainer or assistant coach, because he's got a very good rugby league brain.
He has, and doubtless there will be people queuing up to get him on as a summariser, as a pundit, when the new telly deal is announced. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Look, I'm just looking down all my notes here, Steve. I've got through everything I wanted to talk about. Have you got anything else for us from the NRL before we go?
Well, the West Tigers fight to avoid the wooden spoon had another setback because the St. George, Illawarra, they are also at the bottom of the league, and they beat West 18-14. So it looks likely now that West are going to finish up for the second year in succession as the wooden spooners. And the rumours are flying around: get rid of Tim Sheens, get rid of Benji Marshall. The rift between him and Scott Fulton, who is the recruiter at the West Tigers. Remember a few weeks ago I told you that the board of the West Tigers decided to employ Scott Fulton as a recruitment officer without even letting Tim Sheens, the major coach, Benji Marshall, who will take over next year as the major coach. They brought Scott Fulton in without even letting those two know. Now, evidently, Scott Fulton has come out into the media and said and suggested that Marshall is not a good coach. Now, suggestions like that, when it really has been trouble within the camp, will not help. People are saying that Tim Sheens is too old, etc., 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 get rid of him, this, that, and the other. They put a gallant fight, but St. George, as I say, won 18-14. The media over here, they can just crucify you. It's as simple as that. And Tim Sheens, I see him every week being interviewed, and he just tries to keep his head in place. It's not easy. But when you get someone that's a recruitment officer saying that the coach isn't all that good, does not help.
Well, it doesn't. It's amazing that somebody somewhere hasn't lost their job for speaking out of turn. But as you say, that's the media in Australia. And listen, if Tim Sheens does get the flick, get him on board with us. See if he wants to come with us to Dubai to wave the flag for rugby league. We'll split the billion with him. There won't be a problem.
I tell you what, Eddie, if he's listening, he's already packing. He's already putting in thing. Now, also talking about the West Tigers, is that this Scott Fulton has attacked his former club, the Manly side, the Manly Sea Eagles, and he is negotiated for the two Fayunu brothers from Manly. Now, Samula has only played 5 first-grade games for Manly. His younger brother, Latu, has yet to play in first grade. And West Tigers have signed these two youngsters for $4 million.
Good God. Really?
$4 million they have paid out for two brothers, one who was yet to play in first grade and the other who's only had 5 first grade games. And once again, the lovely Australian media has just ripped both Scott Fulton and West Tigers apart.
With all this news of this sort of money, go into the back room, open the drawer, get your boots out and get polishing, because you can make a comeback even at your ripe old age. You do it for half that.
Listen, I remember getting my first wage at Dewsbury, and it was £3.24. £3.24 pence.
Wow.
That was after tax.
Of course. You've never missed a tax. You've never missed a tax man once in your life. We all know
and
that.
Before you mention it, I've still got that £3 left of it.
The £3.24 check has never been cashed. Good on you, Stevo.
Check.
On you. Listen,
it wasn't a check. You used to get it in cash.
Oh well, You'll definitely have spent it, and maybe the tax man will be after you after all. Look, great to talk to you. Looking forward to Wembley in a couple of weeks' time, and more importantly, looking forward to talking to you again same time next week. Take care of yourself, and we'll talk soon.
See you later, top man.